All right, well, I'd like to welcome everybody to our last CAC meeting of the year. It's been an interesting year. We've had a lot of really great presentations from CPS staff. I think it's been hopefully a productive year. At least I felt like it was, and I appreciate the support that everybody has given me, especially our esteemed former chair. It's been great job. So we, I guess, need to get started with our agenda, and we'll start with the roll call.
Yes, Richard Padilla.
Here.
Lawson Picasso. Diana Martinez. Frank Gonzalez.
Here.
Liz Holloway. Raquel Zapata. Adelita Cantu. John Kelly.
Here.
Tom Corson. Vanessa Alvarado. Bill Day.
Here.
Steve Bonnet.
Here.
Dr. Crapsaddle. Bob Zapata. And Aaron.
Okay, so based on the assumption information that we're going to have a couple more members show up shortly, we'll go ahead and start with the invocation and pledge.
For our final moment, I invite you all to express gratitude for our health, for our families, and our friends, for the opportunity to come together as a committee today. We honor our committee for the responsibility in there. We wish them success today, making decisions with wisdom and humility. We are reminded that we are all stewards acting on behalf of our customers, and we accomplish our goals together with that singular purpose in mind. All right, thank you all. Please join me for a pledge of allegiance.
Stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right. Diana made it.
It's very late.
Well, that's ahead. Okay, staff update. I guess we'll let you do that next one.
Absolutely. So just a few things. I'll be brief. First of all, the committee has been engaged in discussions, had a few discussions relative to the future past. This is the advisory committee. We had some good dialogue. We've had some good dialogue. And, several of you have, or some of you have provided some ideas and suggestions and feedback. So I just want you all to know that we continue to make progress, in painting the path forward. I believe that the board member conversations have been completed, and that I do expect that you will be the subcommittee that was assigned to work on this project on behalf of the full committee will receive a framework and perhaps some red line bylaws to review, and then of course these will be brought to the full committee in the regular scheduled January season. I do expect that will be some very robust conversation, to take a look at all of that, to digest that. Chair Kelly, if the committee were to feel that, upon review and discussion, that further discussion is needed, then we can always schedule a special committee meeting for follow-up discussion there. So I just want you to know that, the bylaws do permit that. So if that helps provide, some comfort to the committee to feel that they will have enough time, to review, digest, and provide feedback, the invitation is there, that option is there.
Well, I know, our intent is to try to have things in place for the February start of the fiscal year. I think that's going to be a challenge, like you and I have discussed. I think that's going to be a challenge. So I it would be up to Diana, but I think that it might be worthwhile either to have a longer meeting in January, or maybe we need to have an intermediate meeting. Could be an online meeting then to discuss it, but we kind of need to see what they present us, see how dramatic the changes are. I think that will probably impact whether or not we need another meeting.
I tell you what, why don't I, if the committee wants to tell me otherwise, why don't we do this? Y'all help me with this one. Why don't we take an action item to put a placeholder on y'all's calendar for a second meeting, just in case. If you don't need it, we remove it.
Right.
Why don't we just do that?
I think that would be a good idea, especially having, the topic be beneficial to the group itself. Maybe just, even if it's a short special meeting, just to cover that alone.
Okay, if y'all can help me remember to do that when we get back, so we can just reserve some time and again, if y'all decide on it.
Yeah, I like that idea. Be worthwhile.
Okay, and then, so that will be the topic for the January meeting. I do right now, Chair Kelly, I do acknowledge that you do, would like to have a conversation also at the January meeting relative to the newspaper article yesterday regarding data centers in our service territory, so we can definitely arrange that as well.
Yeah, we may think about it. After I suggested that, then I'm thinking, well, we're gonna have all this other robust discussion about the reorganization. I guess we could move that to February, but why don't
Let's see
we,
how it goes.
yeah, why don't we kind of see how things progress?
All right.
That sound okay?
All right, as far as the events that are coming up, we do have a board meeting, next week on the 18th. If I'm not mistaken, Rudy, correct me if I'm not mistaken, the topic is winter preparedness. Is that fine for next week?
And demand response, sure, demand response.
Primarily demand response. We already covered them.
Okay, demand response, so that will be a good topic. That kind of aligns, to, the article that you read the other day. So that'll be the topic on December the 18th. At our regular board meeting, our next regular board meeting is January the 29th. Of course, the regularly scheduled CC meeting for January is on the 10th. Later on this evening, we'll get to see Rudy Garza, our President and CEO here, give the opportunity to visit with him this evening. And I do hope to see some other members of our senior leadership team joining us here later as well. We get to visit with them, whether it be on a personal level, just to get to know more about them, or if there's things, that bring to the utilities, you have questions about, they'll be definitely happy to answer that if you. And just lastly, just want to say, thank you all for a wonderful year. You all have been a pleasure to work with. I very much, and the team, all of us very much appreciate how serious you take your role, how the time that you dedicate, to dig in deep, to the topics that we bring you. And to advocate for our customers, regardless of where they are. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the staff for being a pleasure to work with, and we look forward to another wonderful and robust year with you all in 2020. So that is really it for me as far as a staff update. What we might want to do, Chair Kelly, since we're deferring on the approval of the minutes and the election vote pending the arrival of one or two more committee members, we might like to.
I could hear you, but I was like, where is he? Oh, okay.
It's a phone number, I can tell you.
Well, before we move on to anything else, I wanted to say on behalf of the committee, how much we appreciate all y'all's staff support this year. Really, these folks have been great, and we really appreciate everything they've done. The staff that y'all have is quite impressive. We've heard a lot of great presentations during the year. And I mean, I'll just say I'm just terribly pleased that we have such good qualified people at CPS. And, just coming into this, just being an average citizen, I had no idea, what the quality of folks were in the organization. But I think you have just an outstanding organization. You got great people.
I'll say this. For the first time in the 12 years I've been here, I think our leadership team is really kind of all rowing in the same direction. Everybody gets what we're trying to do, and, we're focused on kind of, maximum impact, if you will. So, it makes it easy to make progress when your leadership team is focused on running the business the way I think our leadership team is right now. And that makes a lot of difference. And this team has always managed the business of the CAC, I think, excellently. And so, Yvonne, is one of our best leaders, and appreciate the sentiment. They've always done a good job. And you know what? I mean, let me say this about the CAC. When we formed the RAC, there was a lot of discussion at the board level about why it was necessary. And I think the place we're getting to is where we needed to be. that we're gonna reformat the CAC in a way that allows us to conduct all kinds of public business, in the way that the community is expecting us to. So I think that's a testament to the work that y'all have always done as well. It takes, good, I don't have anybody on council, knocking down my door to try to get their appointees replaced, and when we reconstitute the CAC in whatever manner, we ultimately arrive at, I would expect anybody who's willing to and able to continue serving. I hope so. And we'll add new faces to the mix as necessary. But that's always been my contention. Let's get the CAC constituted in a way that's as robust as we need it to be, and then we'll move on. And that's where we are. So and that only happens when y'all continue to show up and do a good job. And so we appreciate you.
Well, I really think that at least the preliminary discussions about reorganizing the CAC sound promising to me. I haven't been on the committee for a couple of years, 3 years, whatever it's been. So, but I think the idea of having more robust interaction with the public through the CAC really flanges up well with your goal of trying to improve the transparency of the operation of CPS Energy. So I think it all flanges up well, and we're looking forward to being able to try to move the process forward.
Yeah, I'm hopeful y'all will see what we're going to be proposing, and y'all feel good about it. And again, if somebody looks at it and says, what, this isn't for me, that's okay. We'll thank them for their service, and we'll find folks that are willing to serve. But honestly, I don't believe you're going to feel that bad about where we end up. And honestly, we've already got, after this rate case, that we've just gotten through, we've already got some assignments for y'all, so there's work to be done ahead of us. That's gonna look different than what you're used to doing, but I think you're gonna enjoy the work, because it's good work.
Well, just as a average citizen who lives in San Antonio, I'm so thankful we have a municipal utility. I think the structure of the municipal utility is so much preferable to the, I don't know, I guess I'd call them more predatory type of cost is, about the cost sort of situation. I just think that we as a community are lucky to be in that sort of environment where utility companies and particularly CPS. And, but I think the sad thing is probably a lot of folks in the community don't realize what a benefit they have here.
So I had dinner last week with one of our PR firms that helps our team do their job. And next year there'll be another, one element of what we're going to ask y'all to take a look at is we got to get conversations started about how our community values the work that we do. Because, when I go out and talk to folks, I'll say things, they'll be like, I never knew that. I'm like, I don't think you don't know that. This is fundamental to our business. So we got to find a way to start a conversation in the community that allows customers to determine how to place value on the work that we do. Because, it's looked self-serving in the past, and I don't want it to look that way. So we got to figure out how to kind of pull the right strings there to because you're right. I think there's elements of what we do that people just don't realize that I think if they did, they'd feel differently about us.
Right. I think that's exactly right. I agree. I think if they knew all that CPS does, particularly, let's face it, we're in a community that's not the wealthiest in the state, and it's, we have our challenges, but this municipal utility really bends over backwards to help folks that are less fortunate.
And I get you over the head for that.
Yeah. And I just think it's it's too bad that people don't really see the big picture there.
That's all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming and joining us.
Yes. Laura's looking for some customers up there.
So we now proceed with approval of the minutes from November meeting.
Okay, all right. I'll entertain a motion on the.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
See, I'll remember to get the focus. Yeah, but at the end of the year, I finally figured out. Okay. All right, and I guess, shall we go ahead and officer elections? Okay. All right. We, only had, I guess, Lawson and, Dr. Cantu, volunteered for a second term as, what is it? Vice chair. I have to get the wrong right. Vice chair, and Lawson as chair-elect. So we didn't have any other volunteers, and I think those two folks will do a great job. So I would entertain, I guess, is it appropriate to get a motion to accept,
Slate of officers.
Slate officers, okay. I'll entertain a motion to accept that slate.
I will move that we accept the slate of officers as listed in the agenda.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. All right. We have listed here roundtable discussions, so Rudy and I and Amon, we've kind of mentioned the reorganization and some of the discussion around that. And I was hoping that Bob Zapata would be able to be here. He had let me know that he was on the road, but hoped to be back in time to be here. He gave a rather detailed response. I had put out a straw man that I had sent to everybody as just my thoughts, not without the benefit of any other discussion with the staff or board members, but just threw out some thoughts that I had. And Bob came back with some detailed comments, and I was hoping he'd be here to discuss those, but hopefully maybe he can get that in at some point. I just want everybody to feel like they have an opportunity to be heard from our perspective as this process.
Were his comments verbal or was it
He's written.
okay with him to be shared?
That's a good comments. One of the things he brought up is the Vision 2027 implementation of that as we go forward. He was suggesting that whatever rearrangement that we have with the CAC, keep that, in mind that we are doing things that will address that and help advance that vision for 2027. So I think what some of the stuff that I had tossed out, I think would do that, but I didn't focus it particularly that way. So I think that's something that's worth considering as we look at the reorganization. So I guess I'd open up. Does anybody want to offer some comments about our thoughts? I mean, we know that, we will have our opinions and others will have theirs. We'll all stir it all up and come up with something that's going to work better, but I'll open up anybody's comments, what they'd like to see. Aaron, you're kind of a new guy on the board, on the committee, I should say. What do you have any thoughts since your fresh eyes?
I think the monthly cadence is good. I think there was some talk of if there were subgroups, the amount of engagements would be the same. And so I think that's what I would probably want to see. I personally wouldn't be able to be a lot more involved just based on my work schedule, but that may be different for others.
Well, I think that's a good point. There's been discussion about maybe going to quarterly overall meetings and then having subcommittee meetings. I do think that's something that we've got to keep in mind is, people, as Bill and I were talking about, I've been thankful for 8 years that I've been retired, But I know most people that would like to serve and have expertise that would be beneficial to the CAC, most likely are still in the workforce. So we do have to kind of keep in mind that at some point, you know, to be realistic about how much time we expect people to vote. You know.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Any other thoughts or comments?
Can we, readjust our meeting times for the new year? I know some of us have been either, we're about to make it, but we have to take the online version, or we're on online version, we just happen to be down the street and make the meeting in person, or sometimes we forget they're there. So maybe we should relook at to what the next year's appropriate meetings that fits in everyone's schedules.
So you're thinking maybe the late morning meeting times, the middle of the weeks, not.
Yes.
not very for everybody.
Yes, kind of like how we did beginning of the year, how we took a toll with everyone, what time zones work best for them, if it's before lunch or after lunch or during lunch.
Right.
Just to refresh the commitment, just see what fits with everyone's schedule.
Well, I think that's something that ought to be considered. That's a good point. When we look at the reorganization or reorientation, we should keep the schedule in mind, and that, of course, along with her staff, have got other commitments that they have to fulfill in any given week, so they have to work, you know, be cognizant of the staff schedule too, I'm sure.
I mean, part of the bylaws, that you meet on a certain day of the month, but, I'm going to my 6th year, they changed the time frame one time, you know, from 12 o'clock to 11:30. And now it's at 11, so, I mean, it's in the bylaws, you mean, so set date, certain day of the month, a certain time, so it's supposed to
Yes,
estimate
it says schedule, the second Wednesday of the month.
right? Yeah,
Generally.
general, yeah, unless there is a certain aspect that it had.
I would think in the course of this rather dramatic amount of change that we'll foresee, I would think that could be changed. It could be that, you know, if we decide that we're having an overall general meeting bi-monthly or quarterly, and the subcommittee meetings are more frequent, maybe this.
Part of the staff though, you know, because they've got a meeting with CPS Energy, they have to change. Having a set meeting for their time to spend with CAC, I think is vital to keep that on the concept.
Staff can flex.
Yeah,
So we're open to what you all.
but it's really hard to adjust because you know, like 3 members or can't meet at a certain time, and, you know, you can't really, with any organization, you can't really adjust to everybody's time schedule. So having a set time, I think, works in the long run, you know? You can make it, you can make it. If you can't, you can't. You just try and schedule for the next one, you know? It's just logical, I think.
Well, having something standard, I agree, makes sense. So I just have my flexibility that if the committee wanted to change from a lunchtime to the afternoon or morning, you know,
I don't think that would be to happen, but I think for y'all's sake, because I know how busy CPS keeps you people. And y'all take a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of staff hours to set our meetings up. And maybe once in a while, sure, we can adjust, but I don't think it's something that we have to adjust every month. Or every quarter, whatever.
It has to be stated.
Yes, I think
For everybody.
I think that's the best in the long run.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as we do the reorganization, if we wanted to change the time of the meeting, that would be to change the bylaws. So, any thoughts?
I like the time. It's just, I have the same difficulty Aaron has sometimes, which is why I've been absent the last couple of months, is work gets busy. I'm in fundraising, the end of the year is our busiest time here. You know, so it's, that's something everybody has to deal with no matter what. And other people could have busier times at other times for a variety of reasons. So I think it's just trying to figure out, you know, aligning with the schedule. And knowing it ahead of time helps, you know, just, it's the way it is and trying our best to fit into it. And I don't know to what degree the reorganization or recalibration of CAC, that the cadence may be somewhat assigned to us versus how much that's something we can self-direct in whatever comes next. I think it's a lot of TBD until we get more of our marching orders from the board.
Yeah, flexibility is there, yeah, but I would think it'd be, standard would be to have them at set time, but of course, flexibility would be all the
There need to be set time for all of them for planning purposes. I just meant to say that if you wanted to say CDC doesn't meet from 11:30 to 1 anymore, they do from, 8 to 9:30.
Right, okay, good, so,
Right.
that's an exciting, the set time.
To have a moving time frame.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anybody else?
Congratulations to you and thank you for your leadership this year. And congratulations to you, Diana.
Thank
And we will all be helping you, I'm sure.
Oh, well, I've been asking, trust me.
I've said many times, I am a strong advocate of the independence of this committee. So I think of it less as marching orders from the board and more of, we should decide as much of that stuff as we can. I'm always in favor of that. And then I just wanted to make a comment. You mentioned the article about the data centers. That's a topic that came up in a group called Energy Forward, which is a coalition of businesses that has been talking with CPS. And I want to make sure everybody understands the distinction between data centers and those cryptocurrency farm things. It's different.
Yeah, right.
Different. Data centers are very integral to businesses here, and Frost has one, and ours is interesting because we're out on Westover Hills. It has the ability to go offline and run itself on generators if needed, which we've done at least 3 times. Once during Winter Storm Uri, and I think twice this past summer when temperatures got so high that ERCOT was looking for reduction in them. If we get more of these data centers that use a lot of electricity, I think that would be something that we encourage the new centers to have that capacity to do.
See, I think it's a smart thing to do is to have a fallback option. Yeah, I mean, I knew they didn't have the voluminous demand that crypto and things do.
It's a lot of power. I mean,
But it's still, it's
running servers and but it's, as far as economic development and economic benefit goes, those cryptocurrency server farms don't really lend themselves to much employment growth, whereas the data centers are supporting businesses here that do have a lot of employees and encourage more economic development. And I was trying to draw a big circle between, the rate adjustment that just got approved will lead to more resiliency and reliability, which encourages more businesses to come here, which encourages higher economic development, which helps the individual ratepayer with their bill. I mean, it's a long.
Oh, one big snowball.
It is. It's a long. It's a cycle, and it's not always immediate or apparent. But the more that we tell that story, I think the more.
Well, it's like you and I were talking about earlier. It's better to be in a growth situation than dealing with that. It's to be dealing with people.
Yes, absolutely.
Or even discouraging people from coming. But I really like that you brought that up and contrasted, a data center versus a cryptocurrency mining operation. Sorry, I forgot to turn this thing off.
Great song.
Music, let-
Fun journey.
American Dominance, later. Because again, I just like you, the cryptocurrency mining centers is a specific located operation. Very, there's very little what I call impact on the economy, because they don't hire a lot of folks, so they don't really contribute, they just take. Whereas a data center, I'm so glad you pointed it out, because I didn't look at it that way. The data center supports businesses that are already located in the campus, in the county. So if you took the entire operation and included the data center, it would look more favorable to the demand load that it takes.
That's right. So.
But my concern is, and I'm sure we concern daily is how far can we go with that, the CPS serving on that, or serving everything on how much does the business in the future may need to self-generate to take some load off CPS, still provide for the residential.
Sure, that's one of the things that this committee will.
So I'm really interested in discussing that.
All right. Does anybody have any other topics that they'd like to throw on the table, the round table, since we have a round
We
table?
don't get around it.
I have one. The last few meetings, we talked about when we ever do develop subcommittees within our committee, we never talked about a stable number that everyone's allowed to do. Like Lawson pointed out last time, we have some that will do maybe 1 or 2, and we got some that are more gung ho and want to take on 4 or 5. But in the bylaws, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a set fixed number of, you could do this much as a member, but past this number, we're gonna have a talk to see your availability and what you can commit to. Since we don't have that, I don't want it to be that maybe 1 or 2 people are majority committees and say one of them were to get sick or we can get a hold of them and they have the information we need. We don't want to fully rely on them for, being the majority stakeholder in those committees. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me set your mind at ease. We're not gonna assign more than 1 or 2 topics at a time. And those topics will be time bound. There'll be a beginning and an end. Y'all give us your perspective. We'll take that to the board will make whatever decision, they want to make with it. But it's to inform the policy work that we've got to do at CPS Energy. So, we may at a time have 2. My preference is to do 1 at a time so that you're not overcommitted, which is why we're talking about going to quarterly regular meetings so that you have time, monthly to do, some of the subcommittee work that might be necessary. So I don't want to ask any more of you than is unreasonable. So we'll manage that flow of work so that you're not overcommitted. Yeah. Great question. I appreciate you asking.
Thank you for the answer. And then my last point was solar panels. I know we've had some that are on the list with Freedom Solar, and we have third parties that come outside of San Antonio and would try to, encourage our citizens to go with them instead of on the one on the approved list. And it's very difficult to figure out who's coming in and who's coming out if they're not on the list. I know last year I had 6 different providers that say they'll do it in San Antonio, but some came from Laredo, some came from Austin, some came from Houston, and some came from 2 hours plus that I didn't know they were in town. And for me as a citizen, that scares me because if I don't see that list, then I'm gonna assume everybody's on that list without prior knowledge.
Yeah.
The other thing that scares me is the actual process of that. So as a builder, we have a process to where after a few permits, once you pass your first electrical one, you get your electrical meter released. And after you pass plumbing and gas, you get your gas meter released from CPS Energy. But you have to confirm with them from the city of San Antonio aspect. And then take a code number that you got from passing, give it a CPS, and then they release those to you as an assurance that you're good to proceed. And I think we can take the same approach with solar power, even though it's not part of new construction, but it will be part of it soon. But since it's sometimes it's all a pre-owned installation, I think we should take a similar step to where CPS can locally say, if you want a solar panel permit, let someone of an electrical engineer or energy background to look into that system is properly fitted to the house. That way we don't run the issues of where, well, it's installed but not installed correctly, or it's on, but it's not promising the power you're guaranteed in your contract. And most of these contracts are somewhere between 10 to 15 years, between $22,000 to $30,000 on top of your 25, 30-year mortgage. And if you compare your mortgage to your solar panels can go from $200, $300 a month until you finish that contract. But that contract only warranties out your products for about 5, maybe 6 years. And every now and then a roof repair if there's a leak, versus your mortgage, it's there until you sell it or you finish out the processing. And that's a still financial hardship that everyone has to absorb. But in the event something happens, you can have where now one solar panel company gets absorbed by another one, and then they lose track of that record, assuming they're on the list. If they're not on that list, then our citizens will be in trouble at that point.
I could bring up a good concern. I've seen some horror stories about people that really had no business getting sucked into a solar panel commitment. you know, 85 years old or whatever, and, you know, 30-year mortgage, you know, solar panels, that sort of thing. Something that's egregious, and, it'd be nice if there was some way that CPS be in control of that, to make sure that, you know, anybody that approached one of our citizens, knew that they were getting some sort of a fair deal, that the company had investigated their provider and so forth. It'd be nice if we could do that. I don't know, really, is there a,
Yeah, it's real tricky, you know, how
what's the next
active
word?
we get in the solar market. You know, we're incentivizing certain types of solar companies, and we still keep a list. But I get calls every day from people who've gone with another solar company that's not on the list. All that, what we can do to keep that from happening. But, you know, when they call us and ask us, we can put them in the right direction.
Right.
You know, but it's real difficult to have any influence on market-based acquisitions and, you know, activity. You know, we'll usually chase down marketing that's not quite, you know, accurate. We'll get our lawyers involved to make sure that they're not, you know, pretending to be CPS Energy mandated
Yeah.
solar panels. That happens every day.
Problem, yeah.
So it's a real problem.
Like CPS certified or something, because I can look to it, and trust me, I get spam calls, phone calls, emails from companies all over Texas. I think I even got one out of Arizona, and it scared me enough that I stopped looking at solar, so.
Yes.
Certified, I'm a CPS certified company, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
done with that.
they all keep dropping CPS's name. you know.
Yep.
It's not saying that CPS certified, but they'll certainly lead you to believe.
I know, that's just thing.
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody calls us and asks a question, nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. Gee, I wish there was a partnership
Yeah,
of some
we
sort.
should.
That would help so much.
Is that something to discuss with the city council maybe? I don't know what the rules are on that.
Yeah.
I know you can't have too much strain.
And I'll be honest with you, I just took my real estate classes. I'm getting ready to take my license. And one of the things that one of the instructors, or all my instructors said, he goes, houses with solar panels are a nightmare to sell. So that's another reason I said, well, I'm not gonna get it on my house just in case. Because that scares me. So if there was a way that CPS could certify certain companies that would, you know, go through all the rigmaroles that they had to pass y'all's requirements, that would be wonderful.
We've got a list of solar providers we deal with as part of our review process. We do have a list.
Perhaps maybe we can also just make sure that that's accessible, people can easily find it. We've been doing a lot of
That's
research on those communications that perhaps we can take a look and see if we could share it with the community a little bit more broadly. We've done it in the past. Maybe it's just time to do it again and make sure people realize.
Yeah, maybe.
Marketing push, put it out.
Maybe some kind of a note in the bill, the monthly bill.
There are some things we could probably do just to make sure that people's attention are redirected back to that and refresh it.
That's something to consider, that'd be good. I think
All right.